Half of all children born 50,000 years ago were dead before their fifth birthday. No hospitals, no vaccines, no formula milk, no pediatricians. Just a cold world, wild animals, and a tribe of maybe 30 people. And yet, humans survived. Not just survived, became the most successful species on the planet. So how did ancient parents actually raise their kids? The answer is going to change how you think about childhood forever. Let's start with the brutal reality. In hunter-gatherer societies, roughly 40 to 50% of children died before the age of 5. The main killers: infections, parasites, starvation, predators, accidents. There were no antibiotics. A simple cut could kill you. But here's what surprises researchers most. Despite these odds, ancient parents loved their children just as fiercely as parents do today. We know this because of what they buried with them. Children's graves from 30,000 years ago have been found filled with toys, beads, red ochre, careful, deliberate offerings. In Sungheir, Russia, archaeologists found 2 children buried together around 34,000 years ago. The grave contained over 10,000 hand-carved ivory beads. 10,000 beads. At 1 bead per hour to carve, that's over 10,000 hours of work. Someone spent years creating that burial. That's not obligation. That's grief. Now, who actually did the raising? This is where ancient childhood gets fascinating. In modern Western life, 2 parents raise their children mostly alone. In the ancient world, that model would have been a death sentence. Ancient children were raised by the entire tribe. Anthropologists call this alloparenting, from the Greek allo, meaning other. Aunts, uncles, older siblings, grandmothers, everyone participated in feeding, protecting, and teaching the young. Grandmothers in particular were essential. The grandmother hypothesis in evolutionary biology argues that grandmothers are the reason humans live so long past reproductive age. Unlike most animals, human women stop reproducing in their 50s but live for decades more. Why? Because those extra decades spent helping raise grandchildren gave our species a massive survival advantage. A grandmother who helped feed and protect her grandchildren increased their survival odds dramatically. Her genes and her descendants survived. Others didn't. Now let's talk about something that will shock most modern parents. Ancient mothers breastfed for 3 to 4 years on average. This wasn't just about nutrition, it was birth control. Prolonged breastfeeding suppresses ovulation, naturally spacing births 2 to 4 years apart. This spacing was crucial. A mother could not carry 2 infants through the wilderness at once. Nature solved the problem biologically. When solid food began, usually around age 2, it looked nothing like baby food today. Adults would pre-chew food and pass it directly to the child. Archaeologists have found fossilized food residue and infant teeth marks that confirm this. The tribe literally shared their mouths with their children. Intimate, necessary, effective. Now, how did ancient kids actually learn? Simple answer: by watching, copying, and playing. There were no schools, no teachers, no textbooks. Children played with miniature versions of adult tools. Archaeologists have found tiny bows and arrows, small grinding stones, and miniature spears clearly sized for children's hands. By age 5 or 6, a child would be helping gather berries, seeds, and small animals. By age 8, they could track animals and identify hundreds of edible plants. Modern children at age 8 are learning multiplication tables. Ancient children at 8 could survive alone in the wild. Let that sink in. This is perhaps the most jarring difference between ancient childhood and modern childhood. It was short. By age 10, a child was considered a young adult in most hunter-gatherer societies. By 12 or 13, they were expected to contribute fully to the survival of the tribe. And in many cultures, the transition from child to adult wasn't gradual. It was marked by a single, often brutal, ritual. Rites of passage. These rituals existed in virtually every ancient culture around the world, and while the details varied, the purpose was always the same: to test whether a young person was ready. Among some groups, boys were sent alone into the forest for days with no food or weapons. They had to return. That was the test. Many didn't. In other cultures, the ritual involved physical pain, scarification, tooth removal, endurance trials. The message was clear. Childhood is over. From this moment, you are one of us. Girls' rights were different, but equally significant. First menstruation was marked in almost every culture as the moment a girl became a woman. Often, this involved a period of isolation, followed by instruction from elder women on everything from childbirth to plant medicine to spiritual knowledge. The knowledge passed down in those rituals represented thousands of years of accumulated survival wisdom. Now, one more thing that will completely change your understanding of ancient children. Some of them were disabled, and they survived. Archaeologists have found skeletons of children with severe physical conditions, missing limbs, bone diseases, conditions that would have made them completely dependent on others. These children could not have survived without sustained, deliberate care. Their survival is proof that ancient communities chose to protect their most vulnerable members. Compassion is not a modern invention. Then, around 10,000 years ago, everything changed. Agriculture arrived. And for children, it was not an upgrade. Hunter-gatherer children had enormous freedom. They roamed, played, learned through exploration. Farming children worked. Fields needed tending. Animals needed feeding. Every child was labor. Skeletal remains from early agricultural societies show more physical stress on children's bones than in hunter-gatherer remains. They worked harder. They ate less variety. And childhood got shorter. But agriculture also brought something new: permanence, settlements, specialization, and eventually, the first schools. The oldest known school in the world was found in Nippur, in modern-day Iraq, dating to around 2500 BC. Children sat in rows and learned to write on clay tablets. Childhood was being formalized, systematized. And with it, the idea that children needed to be educated, not just survive. So here's what 50,000 years of human history tells us about raising children. The methods were different. The survival odds were brutal. The rituals were harsh. But the love, the absolute devotion of a parent to a child, has never changed. Every bead carved for a dead child, every grandmother who stayed, every tribe that fed a child who couldn't feed himself. That same instinct is in you right now. It never left. It's the oldest thing about us. If this changed how you think about where we came from, subscribe. Next week, something else about ancient humans that will completely surprise you.